Good morning, folks. Have a pleasant trip. Bill Thompson for Outside Insiders. I was hoping to have a little chat with David Crowe. He hasn't emerged yet, and I thought I'd hang around. But it's interesting that Malcolm and Nikki presumably are off to the airport, so I wonder if they've offset their carbon emissions. Good morning, mate. I have some story ideas for you.
I'm running out of time.
I can give them to you.
I'm leaving on the road.
Okay, mate. So not interested in the stories. Good on you.
Always interested.
Email me, mate. I could have handed him the material, but he was snacking. I'll hang around a bit longer. I want to see if I can have a chat with Fran Kelly. About this little matter. Compare the pair. George Pell convicted of child sex abuse. ABC News reports. Remember the big guilty headline on the ABC News? On the other hand, a former ABC children's TV producer named John Stevens pleaded guilty to child indecent assault in Gosford Court a couple of years ago, and there was a bit of a lack of reporting by their ABC about that particular story. I gather that there may have been a reference to it on one local ABC radio program in the Gosford region, but certainly no state TV coverage or national TV coverage, which usually accompanies convictions or court actions against offenders with a church background. The victim in the John Stevens matter was a 14-year-old boy named Simon Major, who, according to the media reports, accompanied John Stevens on a location scouting trip to the Central Coast back in the early 1980s. And when the daily activities were over, they went to a motel for the night, and according to the media reports, John Stevens put his hand down the pyjama pants of Simon Major and indecently assaulted him. John Stevens pleaded guilty when he was charged and brought before the court a couple of years ago. And astoundingly, the ABC appears to not have regarded that as a significant national story. What I was hoping to ask Fran Kelly was, and I've asked her about it a couple of times previously, whether ABC management has reached out to Simon Major in recent years to apologise for what happened to him and to discuss offering compensation. I've asked a number of ABC luminaries, Kerry O'Brien at an event before the last federal election, about this matter and whether and how the ABC has treated it, and I haven't heard back from Kerry either, and he's a national ABC icon. We'll see what happens. Bill Thompson for Outside Insiders. Incidentally, the story ideas that I had for David Crowe included a case which hit the news some years ago regarding a Sydney accountant who had apparently engaged in a decade of tax frauds, which resulted in hundreds of significant tax refunds during a period when the ATO operated something called the High Risk Refund Program to monitor the bona fides of tax refunds in excess of a certain predetermined amount. It's anyone's guess how these fraudsters got away with their fraud, which involved the accountancy firm having interviews with their clients for the preparation of tax returns, and then apparently fraudulently increasing the deductions that the individual purported to claim and pocketing the resultant refunds. The total proceeds amounted to over $2 million, I believe, over the period of time. And fairly late in the process of the fraud, the accountant apparently had misappropriated a cheque from a client, and the client rang to inquire what was going on about it, and the accountant arranged to have a hitman go around to the client's home and shoot him to death. My question to a number of people in the public service and in government over the years has been, how was it that the tax office, with a process in place called the High Risk Refund Program, were unable to detect and stop this fraud on the community, which went on for about 10 years, and which eventually saw the murder of a man. The other is the failure of government agencies to protect the community in the lead up to the revelations about the Trio Capital fiasco, where some offshore scammers based in Hong Kong took over an Albury-based financial firm with an Australian financial services licence, and used it to steal $175 million from Australian superannuation investors mainly, and send the money to offshore tax havens. And my questions to, amongst others, Bill Shorten, when he was Minister for Superannuation and Assistant Treasurer, where were the oversight agencies while all this was going on? If the fraudsters sent $175 million of Australian superannuation investors to offshore tax havens, there may well have been AUSTRAC reports about those transactions, and why wasn't AUSTRAC monitoring them? And perhaps maybe they were monitoring, and perhaps they did make reports to relevant agencies, and if so, what went wrong? Why wasn't the fraud detected at an earlier stage? It took a freelance financial blogger to blow the whistle on the Trio Capital fraud. Why didn't the government pick it up? They've got wide-ranging powers and legions of workers and access to terabytes of data, including references to offshore fund transfers, and yet it took a freelance financial blogger and a newspaper reporter to get to the bottom of things before the feds actually took action. Bill Thompson for Outside Insiders.